Mort is a teenage apprentice, and his master has just gone fishing. Left with the scythe, the horse, and the temporary authority of the Grim Reaper, the boy is suddenly responsible for every closing life. Riding through the freezing night on a horse made of solid muscle, Mort adjusts the silver buckle of his master's cloak. He feels the sudden, heavy pulse of delegated power, moving through the sky with the confidence of a boy who believes he is now the final word on human fate. But his first targets don't match the terrifying legends. He meets a witch who treats her own passing as a transformation into a younger, ethereal spirit, and a monk who views death as a mere 9-month pause before his 54th reincarnation. Mort watches as these victims meet him with relief or even boredom. He finds that once the physical body is gone, the soul simply follows its own expectations. The rigid, objective horror he anticipated is absent. Instead, death reveals itself as a subjective experience, tailored to the belief of the one leaving. His third assignment is Princess Kelly of Stow Lot. The history books are clear. She is destined to be murdered in her bedchamber by a stealthy assassin while the rest of the castle sleeps. As the killer's dagger begins its descent, Mort's panic overrides his training. He intervenes, swinging his scythe to catch the assassin's blade in midair. The assassin is stopped. Kelly is alive. Mort watches the girl breathe and believes he has successfully used his power to perform a singular act of mercy. But the tools of his trade tell a different story. When Mort checks the magical hourglass containing Kelly's lifespan, he finds the upper bulb is completely empty. The sand represents the literal time allocated to a soul by the universe. By leaving Kelly with an empty glass and a beating heart, Mort has forced Kelly into a living body into a space where history says she no longer exists. In Death's cosmic library, Mort finds Kelly's biography. The ink is already dry. It records her assassination at age 15 as a finished fact, an event that triggers a century of peace and political unification across the Central Plains. History on the Discworld functions with deep physical inertia. It is a massive, moving force that doesn't change just because a single detail was altered. The universe has already built the future on the foundation of Kelly's death. Mort has created a localized paradox, but the sheer weight of the surrounding timeline is already beginning a mechanical self-correction. The straight sections of history are pressing down on the kink he introduced, moving to flatten it back into the original shape. This process is indifferent to human will. Reality is treating the princess's survival like a glitch in a machine, moving to overwrite the error without regard for the person involved. A person can walk and talk, but if the underlying fabric of reality refuses to acknowledge their presence, they are effectively being deleted in real time. Inside the palace of Stow Lot, Kelly is discovering the cost of her survival. She is physically solid, yet the world around her is starting to ignore her. The universe is filtering her out of the perception of others to protect the timeline. Her servants walk directly toward her and veer away at the last second, their minds refusing to register that she is there. She is forced to watch her own kingdom go into mourning. Her staff begins polishing her funeral carriage and preparing her memorial services, even as she stands inches away from them, screaming for their attention. Desperate to be seen, she seeks out a young, disorganized wizard named Buoncorte. Because his training involves seeing things as they truly are, rather than how the mind expects them to be, he is the only person in the city who can consistently hold her in his gaze. Buoncorte attempts to read her fortune, but every method yields exactly the same result. Whether it's the tarot cards or the Milarama stocks, the message is uniform. The universe considers her dead. Kelly hires the wizard as her royal recognizer. His role is to act as a living anchor, using his focused attention to tether her to a reality that is actively trying to forget her existence. Miles away, Mort stops at a rural tavern. As he sits among the patrons, he feels a gelido escosor, a cold sting in the air, as the correction finally reaches this part of the map. Patrons who were sitting by the fire are suddenly across the room in different chairs, unaware they ever moved. A man's shirt shifts colors instantly as the history of the afternoon is rewritten to match the new, correct version of events. Mort runs outside to check the tavern's sign. The portrait of Princess Kelly has vanished. In its place is the face of the Duke, whom the rest of the world now remembers as the rightful king. These glitches are the physical signs of history overriding the present, moving inward from the edges of the world toward the center of Mort's mistake. Mort takes to the sky, climbing until the air is thin and the horizon of the Discworld curves beneath him. Below him, the city of Stolat is trapped inside a shimmering dome of iridescent light. This is the last pocket of the reality Mort created, struggling to hold its ground against the darkness outside. The dome is shrinking. As it moves, the edges sizzle, erasing the conflicting details of the city and replacing them with the timeline where Kelly died in her bed. The pressure of 100 years of planned history is bearing down on this single point. The universe is moving to reclaim the space, crushing the paradox until the destined timeline is the only one left. Mort is left to watch the perimeter fail. He is a boy with a scythe, standing between a single human life and a timeline that has already decided her story is over.